And by the way, Renee Cunningham, first 7-inning day of her career on Saturday? Yes, it was on Saturday. Retiring 21 of 23 batters. 7-inning game in what is essentially a Madison softball. 67 pitches. That is ridiculous. I don't know. I've never seen a game like that from Renee Cunningham ever. But I think Northwestern may have found a bullpen option behind Marina Mason, which is huge. This is Rounding the Bases, a Northwestern Diamond Sports podcast. My name is Matt Campbell, and you're listening to WNUR Sports, your home for Northwestern athletics. Two completely different seasons for Northwestern baseball and Northwestern softball, but we're here to cover it all. Welcome back. It's another edition of Rounding the Bases. I am your host, Matt Campbell. No Pearson Stranquist today, but we do have Andrew Little joining us on the pod today. Thank you for coming in. How you doing?
Doing great. Yeah, unfortunately, no Pearson with us, but I'm going to do my best to fill in here as we talk about our favorite diamond sports.
Yeah, and the first diamond sport we'll get into is baseball, who has been on the rockiest of roads, at least the rockiest I've seen since I've gotten to Northwestern. 9 straight losses in Big Ten play for this team. Most recently got swept by Minnesota on the road. 3 pretty demoralizing, deflating games. A 13-1 7-inning run rule loss in Game 1. One of Jake Reifenberg's roughest starts of the year. 5 earned runs on 8 hits in 2 2/3 innings. Garrett Shearer didn't fare much better. Also 5 earned runs in his relief outing. Christian Fornes gave up 2 without recording an out. Dominic DiLoretto had the strongest outing of any pitcher on the staff in the Friday start, which is not surprising considering the season that he's had. We'll get into that a little bit later. Saturday, a 7-3 loss, and Sunday, a 7-2 loss. So essentially, a weekend where the Northwestern bats went cold, but the pitching staff has been even colder. The latter of which has been a big storyline for Northwestern this season. And then, of course, Northwestern 10-8 win over Milwaukee, I should say. Despite going on a 6-game skid in Big Ten play, believe it or not, Northwestern has won 6 straight non-conference games. So do with that information what you will. I don't know. I don't know like what it is with this team. Well, I mean, it does help when you play USC in the midweek, but at the same time, as a Northwestern fan, it is a little bit relaxing to see the Cats in the win column at least once a week.
Yeah, that's what those games are for. I mean, when you play teams like Milwaukee, towards the bottom of their conference, but really encouraging to see some home runs on the board. Jack Louse, Ryan Kucherek, Nick Barron had a really exciting inning where they hit 3 in the span of 4 batters. But those aren't the games that you get excited. The Cats need to win in the conference play, and they just haven't been doing that as of late. And like you said, Minnesota, just a really demoralizing series. Coming off of sweeps to Purdue and Michigan, those are more understandable. Those are 2 of the top teams in the Big Ten. Minnesota is a team towards the bottom of the standings that Northwestern needed to get one win, probably 2 against to stay alive in the Big Ten tournament race, and just couldn't get the bats to come alive.
Well, for this team right now, it sits at 16th in the Big Ten tournament standings. If the season were to end today, they would be way out of the runnings, tied with Penn State for the bottom slot in the Big Ten standings so far. But this upcoming weekend is the Cats Classic in Chicago, Illinois, Wrigley Field. The friendly confines have been quite friendly to Northwestern in years past, and its adversary will be Indiana, a 6-15 team in conference play thus far that sits in the slot above Northwestern in the conference standings, tied with Maryland for 14th. Now, I want to throw this out there because I was talking with friend of the podcast and station member Leo Tesler yesterday about this team, and the conclusion that we came to was that it's so top-heavy in terms of offensive production just not being supported by consistent pitching. You have a guy like Ryan Kucherek, a guy like Owen McElpatrick, Jack Lausch, all guys that can get themselves on base and into scoring position, provide power for this team, and can put runs on the board. But it doesn't mean much when the pitching staff doesn't support the Cats.
Yeah, the top part of this Northwestern batting lineup looks really exciting. It's certainly a Big Ten caliber group. McElpatrick hasn't had quite the season that he was hoping for his senior year, but had a home run on Tuesday to become second all-time for Northwestern. So, there's been moments for him. Lausch has been great. Even Noah Ruiz, the transfer, has been really solid getting on base. So the batting has had its moments. But, yeah, just no consistency with the pitching. And it's been a mix of veterans like Sam Leboke. You've also had some underclassmen. Matt Kauser's got a lot of run. You've talked about Dominic DiLoretto and some of these freshmen, but just haven't been able to establish a firm rotation.
It's a little concerning when you realize Northwestern's top 5 in the conference in home runs with 57, but in terms of batting average, they're bottom of the conference, 264, literally one tick better than bottom of the Big Ten, Michigan State. But I will say that the power for Northwestern has come in droves and has been timely for the Cats, especially even at the bottom of the order. Nick Barron, Jay Slater, those guys providing so much needed power, so much needed RBIs before the lineup card flips over to a guy like Owen McElpatrick or a guy like Jack Lausch, who's even had his stints in the leadoff role. Even Nick Barron has found his way into the leadoff spot some games, and Jack Counsell has as well. But the drawback to that is that it's not consistent. So when the pitching isn't as great, you don't have as many guys getting on base because it's such a power-heavy team. It's such a home run-oriented team that when the bats go cold, then, Ben Greenspan's between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, even in the midweek games like Tuesday against Milwaukee, a lot of those four home runs, a lot of those runs in the production came from that. There were stretches during that game, there were innings where the Cats just couldn't get on base, and it's not against a Big Ten opponent.
It is like I want to say when you look at these midweeks and you look at the way Northwestern plays on a lot of these midweeks, you do begin to scratch your head. Sam Leboke, who's found his way into a lot of these midweek games, of course, barring his incredible relief outing against UIC on April 14th, has not been the Sam Leboke that we expected him to be this season by any means. And that, it sucks. The expectation I said for this team coming into the season was just make the Big Ten tournament. That's it. And Calvin Kaplan, of course, our sports director, was like, I think that's a reasonable goal for the squad. That was after the Michigan State series. And then Northwestern proceeded to go on that 9-game skid in Big Ten play. And you're left questioning what happened. And I think a lot of that lies within the inconsistency with the bats, but most of it falls on a pitching staff that doesn't have a single pitcher below a 5 ERA.
Yeah, there just isn't anyone that that Greenspan can turn to and say, okay, I know we're going to get a quality start. It's been, no matter who's coming into that spot, it's been a struggle. But if there's any spot you can turn it around, it is this last month with Indiana, because this isn't the Indiana team of old, historically one of the better teams in the Big Ten, but they're struggling. And last year at Wrigley Field, Leboke threw a complete game. He had his best game. That was a run rule win. So definitely a spot to gain some momentum.
So before we move things over to softball, I want to ask you this question, because more likely than not, Northwestern has this series against Indiana, and if it doesn't pull something magical out, then it's probably it for its run towards the Big Ten Conference tournament, and that's probably it for the Cats in conference play at home. They'll have a game against Illinois State, go on the road to Urbana-Champaign. Actually, they do have one more conference series against Rutgers to end it, but then it seems as though that'll be it. Rutgers, a very solid opponent in the Big Ten this season, and Indiana, Illinois, much more solid than what it was last season. Both teams at a 9-12 record, so that doesn't necessarily catch the eye. But when you realize that Illinois last season was just nowhere near competitive in the conference, and Rutgers in seasons past nowhere near competitive in the conference. That's a pretty sizable jump for two programs like that. So if Northwestern is out of the race after this weekend, which more likely than not will be the case, what first years are you looking at on this roster to make some development? We've seen Jake Yang get some starts at second base recently. Nick Barron has been a staple in the lineup, and a couple of others. But I want to know, from your perspective, watching this team for a full season, who do you think Ben Greenspan should try to center around for the next couple of years?
I think Nick Barron is definitely a guy that you want to move up into the heart of that order. He's already been a consistent part, hit a home run Tuesday. He's been a consistent starter, but get him into a really firm spot on the team. Jake Yang, I like what I've seen, the fact that he can play middle infield. You know that Noah Ruiz is leaving. Ryan Kucharak's pro future up in the air, so get him more reps in the field, but also the pitching staff. James Whitaker is a guy that they've given a lot of run to. He's had 2 recent starts, and 2 wins, 2 losses. There's been some moments. He's someone I'd like to see a lot more on the mound.
I'm going to go with the pitching staff as well. First year on the pitching staff that I think can make a big jump in the next couple of years, Dominic DiLoretto. This was a guy that didn't give up an earned run for quite a while. It took him a month and a half for him to give up an earned run. That was on the 8th against UIC on the road in downtown Chicago. I was on a call for that. Didn't mean much because Northwestern put up 11 runs in the contest. But still, him coming out of the bullpen this season has been so great for Northwestern. Remember, in the Cats' upset win over Oregon, he threw 2 crucial innings out of the pen to keep Northwestern in it and keep Oregon off of the board. That's a guy that I can see stepping into the shoes that Sam Leboke filled last season as, Friday starter, Saturday, Sunday reliever type of guy. I think he could bear that type of load. And, of course, James Whitaker is another guy that comes to mind when you think of first years on this roster, who I think will improve as time goes on. Probably the best recruit that Northwestern pulled in as an arm in the offseason. But I think DiLoretto has the highest ceiling of any of these first years, not only on the pitching staff, but maybe even on the roster. It's just about getting him more reps on the bump.
And April hasn't been the kindest to him, but yeah, still, it took until April to give up an earned run. That's really impressive. Now, Tuesday was not his best outing. They gave up 4 runs. It didn't even record an out. But he's pitched now 5 times this month, so it's starting to earn some trust. And like you said, the upside is clearly there, DiLoretto.
Hopefully the upside is there for Northwestern baseball, for Northwestern softball. There is a lot of upside. Probably upside's not even the word for it. It has been a blissful month of spring for Cats baseball. Kate Drohan and company are on a 10-game win streak. Let that sink in. Let that sink in for a second. Because before that 10-game win streak, I just want to test your knowledge. What was this team's last loss? Without looking at the schedule.
Was it DePaul?
It was DePaul. It was a 9-5 loss on the road in DePaul where Marina Mason wasn't supposed to pitch, but Northwestern just fell apart without her in the circle. The Cats have figured it out. Swept Penn State, swept Michigan State, beat Northern Illinois in a nail-biter, and then swept Purdue. 8-7 Game 1, 11-4 Game 2, and a 1-0 shutout win in Game 3. 2 wins for Marina Mason on the Friday and the Sunday, and an 11-run offensive performance. One of Northwestern's best offensive performances of the season on Saturday. This team is firing on all cylinders. This team is a definition of an NCAA tournament team, in my opinion. Maybe that might be Northwestern bias. I don't care. Like, Kaylee Avasado on a Saturday went 4 for 5, had a double and a homer. This is vintage Kaylee Avasado. Bridget Donahue, 4 RBIs, tied her career high in that contest as well. With those two as hot as they are this season, Donahue, the strikeout rate was a big problem for her last season. Coming into this season, she was still striking out at a similar rate to start, but then started putting the ball in play earlier in counts. And I think Purdue was the crescendo of all of that. And of course, you have going down the line, Kelsey Nader, Emma Ray doing classic Emma Ray things. Probably the best offensive. Nah, I can't really say that when you have Nebraska in the conference, but one of the best catchers in the Big Ten. Izzy Kania getting hot. Avery Garden coming out of her slump. Grace Nito didn't have the best weekend per se. Grace Nito still Grace Nito. She's going to put the bat on the ball. Kate Renshin has had a huge role as a designated player at times throughout the season. Can get you a big hit when you need her to. This roster is so deep, and it's not always the same players every single game. That's really... I don't even know what to say, man, because it's like how do you express your excitement when you see the first years and the sophomores having as big as a role as the seniors on this roster?
Yeah, they're firing on all cylinders. There's just no other way to put it. The leadership from the veterans like Donahue and Ray has been huge. I mean, Ray's been. It took us too long to talk about Emma Ray, how good she's been, but also the pitching, and that's from a freshman. It's from a first year. It's Marina Mason. She's been one of the best pitchers in the conference, and that Sunday win was what really impressed me because, we saw the bats explode on Saturday. Sunday, they had an uncharacteristic slow day, but it didn't matter because Mason had a shutout, gave up 3 hits, 11 strikeouts. When you have a pitcher that young that can carry you to a big-time conference win like that, it just has so much optimism for the postseason because she is really, when she's clicking, she's the heart of this team and can really be the missing piece.
So this weekend, senior day, 5 seniors on this team. That meant a lot. That helped build this program, and even Abby Harvey, a transfer from Indiana Wesleyan, came in and had a big role in supporting the culture of this team. But Bridget Donahue, Kelsey Nader, Kansas Robinson, Grace Nito, all moving on from Northwestern after this season. From your 2 years watching this team, what do you think they've meant to this program?
I mean, Robinson has meant a lot to the team, not just on the field, but also off. She was a winner of the Jackie Robinson Award, so her impact on the community has been cool to see. Nito and Nader, they're so much fun to watch on the base pass, fielding, and consistent hitters, because so many of these Northwestern hitters above 300, and you can see their leadership on the field. So I think just the consistency that this group has brought through a great time in Northwestern softball has been really fun to see.
From my perspective, I think these seniors are exactly what got Northwestern to invest in Northwestern softball, building Kirkpatrick Stadium for next year. And, of course, they won't be here to play in there, which I could only imagine irks Northwestern in a way because of the fact that they have done so much to help this program grow. Of course, it sucks to, not see them play in there. But at the same time, these are all seniors that can leave Northwestern having known that they created a program that is on the up and up, and they've created a program, one of the best programs, not only at Northwestern right now, but in Northwestern history, bar none. Up there with football, up there with the basketball program. When you think of Northwestern softball has got to be top of mind for you. And that's a badge of honor that these seniors can wear, knowing that they were an integral part of building up that resume for the Cats. So all 5 of them will be done after this season. Special shout out to them. I got to know a couple of them on one of the bus rides back. I think it was a call. I think it was the first game of the Michigan State series. It was me and Vid. It was me and Vid Streeter doing the Michigan State call, and on the bus ride back, I can't forget this. Kansas Robinson and Grace Nito turned to us because you were sitting in the back of the bus. Turned to us and were like, "Yeah, you got to introduce yourselves to the team." And we thought they were joking at first. But they were like, "Oh no!" Coach Johan was like, "You got to introduce yourselves to the team." So they made us stand up and say name, major, class, and a fun fact. And, like, we got to talk with them, like, the whole bus ride back, and they're really personable people. So congratulations to all of them on stellar Northwestern careers, even Abby Harvey as well, coming in and helping build a program as a graduate student and passing on some great knowledge to the Northwestern first years. Kylie Jensen comes to mind as somebody that she's been integral with in her growth this season. So they will be missed. Obviously, hopefully another month with them, knock on wood, hopefully a run in the NCAA tournament. But to stop the Yap session and to bring the podcast to a close, that brings us to our segment Around the Horn, giving our predictions for this upcoming weekend. We'll start with softball. I want your official call on this Minnesota series, and then I want your predictions for baseball this weekend against Indiana.
Yeah, I do think that softball is going to get the sweep against Minnesota. Keep the win streak alive. The vibes are just right. Things are clicking into place. I think we get another Marina Mason masterclass on the way to that and set up a really big Big Ten tournament run. For baseball, Wrigley Field, super excited to be there tomorrow. I think they get the job done there, but I think drop a game Saturday or Sunday, probably Saturday, similar to what we saw last year in the Ohio State series. Close it out with a win Sunday, so they get 2 wins, kind of position yourself a little bit to not be totally out of the running in the Big Ten tournament, but not, if Northwestern baseball wants to make a run to the Big Ten tournament, they've got to get some sweeps. I just don't see that happening right now.
All I'm going to say is this. 2 weeks from today will mark the anniversary of Northwestern's last game at Wrigley Field. 2 weeks and a day from today. Friday, May 9th, 2025, a 7-inning run rule victory over Ohio State. I think it follows the same trend. I think the Cats win by run rule, baseball, win by run rule over Indiana, which I don't think is out of the question per se, because Indiana hasn't had a great Big Ten season either. So I think they'll win by run rule on Friday. I think they drop the Saturday game and then win on Sunday. And then softball, I believe they'll sweep. I think that's a good place to come to. And, it fits my personality as a Northwestern optimist. I'm always a Northwestern optimist, homie, per se. But I don't think winning this series for baseball is necessarily, like, off the equator, wild, off-the-wall kind of prediction. I don't think winning the series for softball is, like, a crazy prediction either. I think a lot of people would predict them to win the series as well, the way they're playing. So, a series win prediction from me. I think you'll drop. I think you said they.
Yeah, I think we're in pretty good agreement here with series wins on both sides.
Series wins on both sides. That's the final call from me and Andrew. Will it happen? We shall see and reconvene next week. This has been Rounding the Bases with Andrew Little and Matt Campbell. Thank you, folks at home, for tuning in. We'll kick back and enjoy some Northwestern Diamond sports over the weekend and catch you next week. And as always, go Cats. You've been listening to Rounding the Bases with your host, Matt Campbell. If you've been watching on YouTube, be sure to hit that subscribe button to be notified of all of our future episodes and our other content, like the Sunday Sports Blog. If you've been listening on Spotify, tap the follow button at the top of our page to add this show to your library. It's been a pleasure being with you today. Thank you for tuning in. And as always, go Cats. See you next time.